Hello there, and welcome to AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. I'm Keaton Shah. A very good day to you indeed. A new day brings about new hopes, new opportunity, and hopefully good things to come. Hopefully. Well, thank you very much for joining me on the program this morning. We got a packed lineup for you, so we are not going to waste any time in getting to the first conversation. What is happening in respect to the political landscape in Transvaal, particularly with alternatives? Whilst alternatives exist, is there a possibility that we may have new parties that are being birthed just 1 year before a general election is due? In fact, what is happening within the United National Congress is there's a conversation being had that within the United National Congress, things aren't so great. So there may be a breakaway party that is being formed. That's at least according to one post on a social media page entitled Unity is Power. In fact, that post said Unity in Diversity, a new political era is on the horizon. Well, one individual may not be able to give me some information. I don't know. I'll try and get it out of him this morning. Is the Member of Parliament for Mayaro, Mr. Rushton Parry. Good morning, sir, and welcome back to the program.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your program this morning.
Well, Mr. Parry, I will start by asking you very simply, following a grueling internal election, which is very much behind us, you've continued your work as a Member of Parliament, you've continued your work as a member of the opposition. However, what is your relationship with the United National Congress as we speak?
Well, I mean, I remain a committed member of the United National Congress. There was a constitutionally due election, which every member of the party, including those who would have been on my slate, had a constitutional duty to follow. The way how the campaign evolved, there were many areas that I did not like. We kept our campaign to the point, no mudslinging. I think it was a very mature campaign. We stuck to the issues, raised about party issues. And we went to the polls, and for whatever reasons, the result, went one way. But, we walked away with one or two things. One, we were able to gather over 4,000 votes out of the 13,000 votes that were casted. I think we had the support of the country behind us. I think we were able to breathe a breath of fresh air into the United National Congress and the country at large. Today, the issues that I raised as the head of that slate, it's still there. So the matters that we raised during the campaign has to be addressed, because we do feel, plus the 4,000 people who would have voted for us, still see these matters to be addressed by the new leadership of the party. In answering your questions about my relationship, I have no problem with my party. None at all. I remain a committed member of the United National Congress, the version of the party that I joined 10 or 12 years ago. That is where my commitment is. I have issues with some of the decisions that is being made by the leadership of the party. And as a member of the party, I have a duty and a right to call them out at times. Now, what I know, the election is over. And I will continue to campaign to fix these issues internally, respectfully, along the same line and length that I took while we were on the campaign. So my relationship with the party remains good, but communication is a two-way street. I don't know what's happening from the other side.
Well, your relationship with the party remains good. I wonder if the party's relationship with you remains good, because it seems as though yourself and members of your slate, I know that the United National Congress were hosting budget consultations across the nation, but correct me if I'm wrong, you were not even invited to your constituency's budget consultation, and it was a similar thing with other members that fell under your slate or supported you during your campaign. Does that suggest the possibility that your time with the United National Congress is starting to see its sunset?
Well, I mean, life is full of possibilities. I had a life outside of the politics. I have a life inside of the politics, and I will continue to have a life outside of the politics. I do believe there is a huge role for myself, members of my slate, in terms of the direction of Trinidad and Tobago as we go along. And I'm not fearful, you know. Listen, politics is war, right? And it is not for the light skin. It is not for people of faint heart. And you have to take it in strides. I tell you this, the party would have had to adopt a position prior to the call that I made for the internal elections. You know, a lot of people would have judged the actions, but they don't know what was the condition that was pre-existing for I to make that call. And we can leave that for a discussion for another time. But since then, I made this call concerning the elections sometime in early March of this year. And I can tell you as a fact, there has been no communication between any leaders of the party and myself up to today. None. Outside of email communications, show a little WhatsApp group when you are sending general instructions, there has been no communication post that call. There's been no communications since the election has been over. Now, that being said, conversations about these budget consultations were being shared, virtually. And nobody picked up the phone and said, well, Barry, look, what will be a good day for you in Mayaro? All of a sudden, I saw a date for Mayaro, which was the 14th of August, I believe. When I saw the date, I reached out to the chairman of the party and the general secretary, which is what you do in an organization, and say, listen, guys, I saw a date. However, I have foreign travel scheduled. I have vacation planned out with my family. I do have children in university away. And this date would be bad. But I am available at this date. I'm available after that date. And if you can't change the date, what assistance do you need from me? So whatever I can do prior to the budget, let me know. There was no response to the email, and I suspect there was no requirement for my assistance. So I conducted myself in an appropriate way. I made sure I reached out to the leaders of the party and let them know, not yet, but I'm willing to help. Nothing was asked for. I proceeded on my vacation. And that was the rationale behind my absence during the budget consultations. Even up to today, I shadow the Ministry of Trade and Industry. I speak on finance and the economy. As you know, I speak on digital transformation. I have businesses in IT. And a manifesto was waived on Monday night. And I can tell you, not one single question was asked of me and my portfolio in determining what is inside that manifesto. So, I do not want to be, subjective in any particular area of what the party is thinking. But I am saying, if you have MPs who have been managing shadow portfolios for years, which I have been doing, and all of a sudden a manifesto pops up in the air, well then clearly they've been talking to somebody else, not me. But I wait my turn. There's a budget that is coming. We will all speak at the budget, and I will continue to do the work that I started many, many years ago, and I will continue to speak on these matters.
What about your work in other areas? For example, as I mentioned in my introduction, there seems to be a new political era on the horizon, and those are words I'm quoting in verbatim from a post, a social media page, states to be Unity is Power, Trinidad and Tobago. And thus far, if one was to read that post, it speaks, quite frankly, to a number of themes that you highlighted this morning, such as the failure of the current UNC leadership to unite the party, the omissions of MPs from UNC budget consultations, the alienation of young professionals from within the party, and other disaffected groups that stem from the party. It says that an agreement has been struck to form a third group. Do you have any role to play in this agreement, or any role to play in the formation of what is deemed to be UPTT?
Well, it's oddly enough that UP, which was the lettering that we used during our campaign for the United Patriots, I can tell you that I personally have nothing to do with that. As far as I am aware, none of the 4 MPs who would have, been in United Patriots, none of them is actively involved in any splinter that is going to be well, I wouldn't say anti-UNC, but in terms of what was written in the social media post, which I saw as well. That being said, there is nothing that I disagree with in the post, right? Because during our campaign, I was very clear that a united party, we must be open to conversations with everybody. Because clearly, history has shown us you cannot defeat the PNM alone. We've seen it on several occasions. And the more fractured we are as a society, the PNM wins. And I can tell you, for whatever is the feeling inside of the party, this is growing pains. I mean, we have a young party compared to the People's National Movement, right? And what I can tell you that we are united. We are united against the PNM. We are united against crime. We are united against poor health care. We are united against a collapsing infrastructure in our education system, our roadway. So I'm sure we are united against those things. I also mentioned during the campaign that we have to be open to talk to the good, the bad, and the mad people in this country. Because if we don't have a united front against the People's National Movement, Dr. Rowley and his band of people will walk into government next year. And we cannot afford for the same ill-conceived, poorly designed, poorly thought out policies and procedures of the PNM to continue. When you look at the last 9 years, they have had enough time to correct whatever they felt were the failures of the People's Partnership. You can't come today in 2024, 15 months before general elections, and still blaming Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, still blaming the People's Partnership. You have had sufficient time to take corrective measures. Problem with the PNM, they lack a depth of knowledge. I don't think they are able to source competent advice around them. I think they are being rejected by their own people, their own supporters, because of their own failures. So it is really that the UNC now, we have to get together and fix our shop. But I want to tell you something, Peter, that the tail never wags the dog. The dog must wag the tail. There's a leadership in the United National Congress. There are 5 sitting MPs. There are councillors who have been pushed aside. There are people who have been part of our struggle that were ostracized because of the campaign. It is the leadership of the party to reach out and bring everybody back in, because the dog must always wag the tail, not the reverse.
Well, given what you said about even a party not necessarily being united in the UNC, PNM supporters are not, supporting the People's National Movement. Clearly, there is room for an alternative, and whilst alternatives exist, there's always room for more. That being said, are you surprised by this breakaway or this stray, at least what it deems to be, from the United National Congress? Do you believe that this is only beneficial to such supporters of which you've spoken of this morning?
What I would tell you is that having alternative views on matters of the country, of the politics, is a good thing. It is not bad. It is how we manage it. Because I can tell you this, since the election, I have been receiving calls from every political organization that you can find about Rushton. We were very, very in support of what you guys were doing. We do feel that, there is something good that can come out. Let us talk. Now, I have been speaking with everybody, but I have made it very clear. I have no intention of leaving the United National Congress. That goes with the PNM in my arrow screened, and they have not screened anyone in the PNM for mayor. I know what is the rumors that I've been hearing. They're waiting to see what the UNC is going to do with Parry before they decide who they're going to pick. What it means is that I am a problem for both of them, the UNC and the PNM, which is a good thing. What we need is to have a massive shake in the politics in this country, because, Keaton, we are at a place in 2025, when the general election is called, where there are global headwinds that are coming. It is coming, whether we want it or not. We have issues of the regional issues, global warming, climate change, transnational organized crime. Dr. Rowley has indicated that he's going to be pushing his agenda for campaign finance reform. All of these things we have to be addressing. When you look at the fact that, Monday night, if you listen, the political leader, when she spoke, there was a grocery list of items, of things that we're going to do when we get into government, right? But what was missing in that conversation, Ethan, is how we're going to accomplish it. Now, I don't know, and perhaps it's because of my experience coming out of the corporate world, where you have to give fuller messages. One, how are we going to deal with 150 billion plus debt in terms of our public sector debt going forward? How are we going to finance all of these things that we say we're going to do, right? Where is the new streams of income is going to come from? How are we going to manage the whole issue of our collapsing infrastructure, water? I mean, to me, my gut is that we're not speaking to our young audience at all. We are not telling our young professionals that this is how we're going to accomplish this. This is how we're going to create an environment where you're going to secure good jobs post-graduating your tertiary education, where you would be able to purchase a home, raise a family, and live a decent standard of life. So we could talk about 500 things that the PNM is not doing. But if we don't say exactly what are we going to do when you give us the opportunity to take government next year, then I believe neither political party, whether it's the UNC or the PNM, has sufficient base vote to win a general election. There's about 150,000 swing voters who participate based on the issues of the day, based on the candidate selections. I'll tell you this, the East-West corridor votes for a candidate based on who you put in your safe seats. Because remember, a cabinet, a government is managers of your society. And that swing voter is going to look, well, who is this man you put in to manage my money? And if they are not satisfied with the quality and the competency of your people in the safe seats where you walk into a seat, then it will speak a lot about how they lend their support for the candidates you put on these marginal seats. So it is really you must take a huge overview of how we prepare for the general elections. And I don't believe that we are articulating clearly our position on key issues. I mean, just look at the crime issues. The Prime Minister yesterday said it's not his fault. That is a big statement. You are the Prime Minister of this country. You are head of the National Security Council. And then you are now want to blame the very same victims of crime who are suffering and say it's we fault. That is an abdication of duty. The Prime Minister has thrown his hand up in the air. He has really tossed in the towel. The only thing left for Dr. Rowley to do is to call the elections, because he has absolutely given up. So those are the things we have to be looking at.
Well, when the elections are called, Mr. Parry, coming back to the points that you were making, it's all well and good what the United National Congress is currently stating in respect to its campaign. You have expressed that in principle you support such measures, but you have also been consistent in suggesting that we need to understand exactly how this is going to be done, or how the United National Congress is going to achieve this, as you articulated this morning. However, you also indicated that a stronger UNC leadership can rebuild TNT. When the election bells are officially rung by current Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, in your opinion, is the United National Congress currently in a position to be genuine contenders to challenge or to be the next government of TNT?
No, I do not believe that we are at a place right now. This is why it is the duty of every right-thinking member of the United National Congress to have a conversation internally and respectfully in terms of the changes that we have to make to prepare to win. There are those within the party that I belong to who feel that the PNM is going to collapse. Listen, the PNM didn't collapse in 9 years ago, collapse now. Listen, Dr. Rowley is a shrewd politician. Dr. Rowley has the date for the election in his back pocket. He has the treasury. He has a budget that is going to come in about a month's time. He has about 9 or 10 flagship projects. that he is hell-bent on completing. Right? Let me tell you, we've seen this before in 2020 for the general elections. The conversation was that COVID had all but collapsed the PNM. You know, there were people who wanted to hang Dr. Rowley from the mast of the ship that he's sailing here. And the country voted against the United National Congress. And we must ask ourselves why. And as far as I'm aware, in the 10 years, in 9 years that I've been an MP, 2 general elections, we're going into a third, there's been a few local government elections, and I have never participated in one analysis as to why we fail or why we couldn't do better. Now, perhaps it's been done. I can't say it's not being done. But, I mean, I have a colleague stands up on Monday night at the Monday night cottage meeting and said that the UNC is the most politically powerful, diverse party in the Western Hemisphere. So if I'm to take his word for it, I think we're good. A win is a shot for us in 2025. But I'm not buying cat and bag. We have a lot of work to do. And the faster the party comes to terms with your weaknesses and start strengthening it, the better we'll be prepared to take government in 2025. I am not convinced that we are there yet. There's a lot of work to do. I remain committed and willing to work with all my colleagues, willing to work with the leadership that is there because they were voted to power again 3 months ago. So I have no choice but to work with them. But they have to be willing to work with me. And I am an open book. I am willing to work and work hard to make sure that we prepare for government in 2025.
You've indicated that you are preparing to work with them, whether or not they are willing to work with you. Different question. So finally, Mr. Parry, given that you heard rumors at the possibility that the People's National Movement is waiting to see what happens with Rushton Parry and the United National Congress in the next general election, whether or not he will be screened as a candidate, whether or not he has a role to play in the United National Congress's campaign for the year 2025 general election. Should that not happen, have you thought as to whether or not you would be willing to work with another party? For example, this breakaway UPTT, we'll see how that evolves. If it evolves into something further, whether or not you would play a role, or even considering that you have stated on this program that you believe yourself and your colleagues who ran on your slate still have a lot to contribute towards the development of TNT. If that be the case, would you be even willing to run on a different ticket, perhaps the People's National Movement?
I can tell you, until the day that the United National Congress decides that Rushton Parry no longer has value to them, a party with a philosophy which I agreed with in terms of what it stood for in 2015, 2014, unless that day reaches, that the UNC say, well, Parry, I'm done with you, I will remain committed, a member of our party, and work towards building a stronger UNC for a stronger Trinidad and Tobago. And that is my say on that matter. I have no intention to go to the PNM or to go to any other party right now. It is about sticking in your home, fixing your foundation, strengthening your organization, and getting us prepared for government. And if that is something that the party believes they don't want from Rushton Parry, well, at the end of the day, they have the choice to do whatever they want. And when that time comes, I will choose whatever I decide to do at that point in time. But as of today, Keaton, I remain a committed member of the party that I joined, the version of the party that I joined 10, 12 years ago, and I look forward to strengthening that organization back to where we came from. And that is where I'm standing today on that matter.
Well, Mr. Parry, thank you very much for your time this morning, and thank you for being with us. Appreciate your time and for sharing your position with currently what is happening in the United National Congress and by extension the state of affairs in TNT. Thank you very much, sir.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All the best. Member of Parliament for Mayor Rushton Parry with us on the program this morning. Only Time Will Tell, which is also a very good song, by the way. Ladies and gentlemen, we take a break here on AM Prime. When we return, the conversations will continue. Stay with us.